The chaos wastes, the realm of nightmares, the void. In hushed voices, they give 1,000 foolish names to a place they will never understand. But here, in the snowy tundra of the far north, is where gods and mortals meet, where the Dark Lords forge their greatest champions in the fires of war. Taurox the Brass Bull, Egrimm van Horstmann, and the Beasts of Chaos meet on these warp-touched plains at the edge of the known world, with the gaze of the ruinous powers fixed upon them. Chaos and Beastmen, SFO Grimhammer 2, Mixu's Lord Mods, and a Royal Rumble to decide who the gods truly love. It's not the first time Tzeentch, Khorne, and Slaanesh and their mortal champions have come together for a Thunderdome at the poles of the planet, and it certainly won't be the last. I would venture to guess the Brass Bull is in the top 10 most desired lords for a lot of players currently in Warhammer 2, and as he zerks through enemy battle lines, his ward save and melee defense will climb higher and higher, which pairs pretty nicely with his ability to blend infantry. And rest assured, we're doing the Minibus proud today. Wouldn't have it any other way. With Taurox as my general, got 4 Minotaurs, 2 with dual weapons for their 20 bonus versus infantry, 2 with great weapons for the Mark of Khorne and bonus versus large, and a Gore Bull leading them. And that Minibus is a huge part of this strategy. It's a huge component because it's really the majority of the DPS. This Beastmen Brayherd will be fielding this battle. 3 Ungor Raiders, 2 Centaurs with throwing axes, and a unit of Slongors blessed with inhuman speed and heavy armor-piercing damage. They want to be used more like cavalry than your traditional infantry. Incredible mobility on them, but they are squishy. They will die pretty easily. Blackhorn's Ravagers and a couple meat shields will round out the rest of the Beastmen build, and across Shaggrath Strand flies Egrimm van Horstmann and the Chaos Dragon Baldros. We've shown him off before. He is insanely powerful, one of the greatest mortal champions of Tzeentch, and he's got the golden eye of Tzeentch, which makes ambushing him impossible. His spotting range is ridiculous. He has a 22% ward save, the Sword of Change for Chaos Spawn summons, Barona's Time Warp as a bound spell, and all the melee prowess of the Chaos Lord riding one of the scariest beasts in Warhammer Fantasy. And the Cabal follows where he leads. Frontline of Marauders and Chaos Warriors, an Exalted Hero, 2 chosen Halberds, who have decided not to mark up this battle, which will keep their leadership at its highest and their all-around combat potential undivided, without the need for specialization, a Hell Cannon, and some Chaos Knights out on the right flank. Very powerful heavy cavalry that can bowl through the majority of Beastmen fast movers. So Baldros and Egrimm van Horstmann look to do some scouting early, and they've already spotted some of those Ungor herd. Looks like the Marauder Horsemen moving up to get a little bit of skirmishing done early, and in a skirmish fight, Marauder Horsemen will have the advantage against Centaurs with throwing axes. They aren't quite as fast, but they have longer range, and their projectiles are better in a trade with cavalry. With that said, though, the idea here is to hopefully catch them in melee. Centaurs are a little bit faster, and if they get into close quarters combat, they can kill them. So decided to give chase. Not quite going to be able to get there. Going to catch a couple models out, actually, and a couple throwing axes will kill the 2 that got pinned away from the rest of the unit. Just got destroyed by that volley, but quickly going to realize with Egrimm van Horstmann nearby, it's not going to be worth it, and retreat to the safety of the Brayherd. And as the Hell Cannon opens up fire, there's one thing that's going to be really important in this battle, and that's making it into the safety of the woods without getting my infantry shot up and destroyed by the Hell Cannon. And also worrying about the Dark Fires of Change from Egrimm and Baldros up top. Their Dragon Breath can completely delete units from the game, but in the relative safety of the woods, they'll have some cover and are a lot less likely to be exploded by a twin-headed monster from on high. So moving into the trees now, and that will give the Beastmen a lot more time to close the gap, get into that Chaos Warrior front line, and also avoid the skirmish fire from the Marauder Horsemen. The Minotaurs do not have shields, none of them do. 2 of them are dual wielding, and 2 of them have the bonus versus large 2-handed axe, so they could get torn up by all that skirmish fire as well. So the woods are just a good place for the Beastmen to be right now. The Hell Cannon gonna get a nasty shot into the Ungor Raiders and explode half the regiment in a single volley. Hit them right on the flank, carried all the way through the formation, and just pulped them. That was brutal, and we're not gonna want to see that again. So now that they're into the woods, I think the Hell Cannon will have a very hard time hitting any of the infantry regiments, at least flush. But yeah, that was pretty painful. Much rather that happened to them than my Slongor or to my Blackhorn's Ravagers, though, so I'll take that. Slongor are moving out to the flank, getting ready to engage with the cavalry. There is that Chaos Knight unit. It's going to be pretty scary, and one of the best ways to deal with them here is to pin them down with the chaff, send in the Slangors with their heavy armor-piercing damage and their high mobility, and the Blackhorn's Ravagers can go right up the center and get into the Marauders. And they smell blood in the water. They realize, okay, whether it's Chaos Warriors, whether it's the Marauders, they are going to die real easy to that stat line and the armor sundering damage, and so they're going to go right in and immediately off the charge. Marauders losing a third of their health, and a big part of that is the Blackhorn's Ravagers have 35 charge bonus, which is pretty impressive for an infantry unit. Some sticky, icky purple ectoplasm going towards the Slangors, who are moving around the flank, alongside some of the Centaurs with throwing axes, and the Minibus moving right up the center. Gorbel and the dual-wielding Minotaurs are going to go right into that action and start slicing through the Marauders, who will not be able to hold out for very long against this kind of assault. But they're doing their job. They're just supposed to meet shield and hold out so the Chaos Warriors don't have to take that armor-piercing charge. Gorbel bouncing through their formation and doing those somersaults we've all come to know and love since the Call of the Beastmen was initially released. And they're getting sliced apart. No chance whatsoever. The Chosen with Halberds and the Chaos Knights will have to get in if they want to start turning that fight. Chaos Knights do have a bonus for Large in SFO. They have armor-piercing damage as well. They are even more high tier in this mod than they are in vanilla. But the Slangor made it all the way around behind and into the Hell Cannon, trying to shut that down, but the Chaos Warriors are nearby. Dark Fires of Change getting spewed towards the Minotaurs, who will dodge out of the way. And the Slaaneshi champions for the Beastmen, they're causing a lot of havoc in the back lines, which is their role, their job. Taurox the Brass Bull, you know him well now. You've seen him in a couple of my mod videos before. Goring, one unfortunate Chaos Warrior, will toss his lifeless husk into the air to slam on the snowy tundra below. And those dual axes, they were meant for chunking through infantry. I think he has a 60 bonus versus infantry in this mod, which is kind of redundant at a certain point. It's like, when you've got 140 melee attack against infantry, what's the difference between that and 120 melee attack or 100 melee attack? I don't think there is one. I don't think there's really much of a difference in hit chance there at all. But yeah, I mean, he's going to carve through those Chaos Warriors pretty easily, especially when backed up by the rest of his Minibus Doom Squad. So yeah, these Chaos Warriors are going to die. They don't really want to be there. They want some help. Egrimm van Horstmann is the only lord who can save them in that situation, and I don't think he wants to land near a bunch of armor-piercing Minotaurs either. So the Beastmen have done a decent job so far of getting into the back line. Slangor have not done a lot of damage to the Hell Cannon, though, and are actually losing to the Chaos Warriors at this point. But the Chaos Knights are stuck in, not cycle charging, but Barona's Time Warp about to go down on the Chaos right flank, and that will help support those Chaos Warriors and maybe start turning it back in their favor a bit, especially if Baldros gets a nasty breath attack into the side. But instead, he's going to land in and amongst the Slangors, and this is where they should probably think about retreating. I mean, if it was a 1v1 fight, Slangor might be getting some kind of worthy trade out of this engagement, but a twin-headed Tzeentchian abomination backed up by a bunch of Chaos Warriors is going to be way too much for the Slaaneshi champions of the Beastmen to deal with, and they really should be getting used and cycle charged like heavy cavalry. And that's probably the biggest mistake I've made so far, not using their mobility to their fullest potential, and instead keeping them in melee in a fight they probably cannot win. Piercing Bolts of Burning just ripped up the Centaurs with throwing axes. It's a really nice bombardment spell, one you never see in vanilla whatsoever, and Chaos Knights just got swarmed, inundated, surrounded, and destroyed by the Minotaur squad. But Taurox is coming in to support the Slangor, trying to get them to keep fighting, trying to get them to chunk through the Chaos Warriors and win this fight, just will it through sheer force of brassness. But it's not going to be enough. He can't do this. I mean, he can't be there either. In a 1v1 fight, I actually think maybe he'd do okay against Egrimm, but I have my doubts about that simply because that Chaos Dragon has almost 700 weapon strength. It's hard to deal with for sure, and with Barona's Time Warp going down too, melee attacks shooting up into the stratosphere, Taurox is getting chunked down. Now he needs to leave, and he has no support. So, scary situation for sure, but pretty nimble on his feet for a 2-ton brass behemoth. He will slither his way out of there, and both factions will kind of reset after Baldros is done feasting on those poor remnants of marked Beastmen, and kind of threw good money after bad with the Blackhorn's Ravagers. Not the best engagement I've ever had on Total War Warhammer 2. Should have realized when the Chaos Dragon came over it was time to run the hell away, and I did not. And the Chosen Halberds, whose name I have not called this battle, are going to be a pretty big issue this game, because they've got more than 60 melee defense, ton of armor, and a lot of HP. Chosen are serious. They are scary, and the Beastmen have lost their best tool for countering them, which were those Slime Gores. So we'll have to ignore those Chosen Halberds and kind of make fun of their lack of mobility, avoid them for the majority of this battle, and then once they're the last things left on the map, kind of try to surround them and cut them to pieces. But there's a lot of work to even get to that point still remaining. Chaos Knights getting charged in the rear. Little bit of sloppy micro on both sides for the last, like, I don't know, 30 seconds of play or so, but it happens. Minotaurs charging in, bowling right through the Chaos Warrior front line, and the Bullgors, they're the bonus for large kind, are definitely going to make their presence felt here with a nice charge. Centaurs with throwing axes are still alive, but they were full HP before that piercing bolts of burning hit, and they got sent pretty close to the edge of existence there. But this is where the Minibus shines. This is why you bring it, when you can isolate the infantry and surround them. And it's a great way to get the monstrous infantry going to work. Burning Head, gonna kill some of the Ungor Raiders. It's a pretty nice cast. A good idea. Almost caught 2 full units, but managed to dodge out of the way. Second half of that spell. Centaurs with throwing axes dodging all the way behind the Chaos lines and getting into the Hell Cannon. Chosen Halberds nearby to support, though. And the Gorbul's got to be careful, because those attack animations, those rolls, those somersaults, can carry you directly into the middle of a bunch of armor-piercing halberds, and with Chosen, that is just not something you want to see. Your Gorbul will melt under all that AP damage and bonus for large, and Egrimm's nearby and still buffing up his front line with Barona's Time Warp. Now, he's being a little bit conservative here. I'd probably be jumping into melee at this point, but it looks like there's a Fear and Terror route coming in. Taurox doing what he can, Dark Fires of Chaos raining down from above, but maybe it was right for him to not go in immediately, because he could have gotten swarmed by a bunch of Minotaurs, and it could still happen with all those nearby. They're trying to kill the Exalted Hero right now. Taurox should make mincemeat out of him pretty quick, but the Gorbul is dueling a bunch of Chosen Halberds, and yeah, I mean, that was 30 seconds ago I said that, and yeah, a couple of his attack animations carried him into the enemy formation, and he is dropping like bad habits right now. Definitely the wrong fight for him to take, and he's pretty much out of this fight for good. Big mistake there. Taurox and the rest of the Minotaurs, though, are on top of Egrimm. That 22% ward save is making it pretty hard to kill him, but almost got a surround off. Probably should have sent the Centaurs in a little bit earlier to pin him in place. Sword of Change helping him out, though, creating a little bit more space, and we've got a monstrous infantry duel. The Spawn of Chaos, the Spawn of Tzeentch versus the Cloven Ones, and Minotaurs should be able to crush that with their armor-cleaving two-handed axes. But they will retreat, because they realize that there's more important things to do, like kill Egrimm van Horstmann. Again, Baldros will escape to the safety of the skies, and the Centaurs with throwing axes, they've got a really important job at this point in the battle. That is to whittle him down. The infantry, maybe not so much of an issue besides the Chosen Halberds. If they can isolate Egrimm and kill him, could cause some kind of chain rout, but the Beastmen are looking pretty tattered at this point in the battle, and they've lost all their momentum, which is a really big deal when you're playing the Beastmen, because their entire strategy revolves around quickly breaking units and then running them down. If they're not able to do that, if their opponent is able to weather that initial storm, then it can be kind of problematic, because the Beastmen, especially compared to the Warriors of Chaos, don't have that staying power. They don't have the armor, the high melee defense. What they do have is the ability to always pick the right engagement, use their speed to its fullest potential, but once you go in, you go hard and you break them early, or you're going to get stonewalled, and in a long grinded out fight, Beastmen are going to have a hard time dealing with the Warriors of Chaos. And Egrimm is still pretty close to full HP, Taurox and the Minotaurs closing in, but it will matter not. Army losses will kick in, and that will be the end of the game, right as Baldros and Egrimm van Horstmann summon a banishment. Taurox gonna get banished to the warp, Khorne will be very displeased, and Tzeentch will take the field. So, couple issues that game. A lot of not very good engagements, kind of sloppy micro on my part. Not one of my finer, not one of my finer performances in general, but it happens to everybody. Doesn't matter how good you are. There are times where you're just gonna micro like crap, and this was a game where I don't think I played particularly well, but I think that there were also some issues with the build too. One of the big ones was, of course, the whole caster debate, and I do have some things to say about that. In this case, I should have brought a caster, 100% for sure. Spirit Leech and Buna would have been by far the best ways to deal with Egrimm and his chosen halberds. If I had microed my Slangor more appropriately and cycle charged with them, and gotten them in and amongst the chosen halberds, also would have had an option to deal with them better. But, I mean, Fate of Buna, like, one cast of that, although it has been changed in SFO, so it's actually probably not quite as good as it would be in vanilla. But, yeah, I mean, you can debuff and seriously hurt chosen halberds with those direct damage spells, and that's by far the best way for the Beastmen to deal with them. It is important to remember, we are using mods here. It's not really reflective of the balance of the vanilla game. And frankly, I don't have any idea where some of these factions stack up in the SFO multiplayer meta. There just aren't enough people playing. With that said, I do think Empire and Chaos are two of the stronger factions in the mod, and Egrimm van Horstmann with Mixer's Lord mods is ridiculously good. If he was in vanilla, I would say he's overpowered. In this, maybe not quite so much, because there are other overpowered lords in the SFO as a mod where everything is OP, so nothing is OP. So, things to think about there. But yeah, Egrimm is hard to deal with for sure. As for the Beastmen and how they fit into the multiplayer meta in the base game, I think they fit pretty solidly in the middle of the pack. They're a good faction that has some very advantageous matchups and some pretty bad ones against Vampire Coast and Vampire Counts. They struggle, but they're one of the harder factions to use overall. They require a lot of micro and good decision making, and that's true of really any lightning quick faction without a lot of armor. They have the tools and speed to always pick the right engagements, but that speed can be a detriment because your stuff can die super quickly. They're very momentum based, probably one of the best factions in the game for shutting down range play and artillery, but if your opponent weathers that initial storm, things can shift back in their favor pretty quick. In terms of the magic caster debate, I have never really subscribed to the idea that you must absolutely unequivocally have a caster. I think in most situations it's probably better, but it's not a free resource like some people say. You have to pay money for that resource, and there are times where having an extra unit can be better. And sometimes it's just simply more thematic and more fun not to have one. In this case, probably should have gotten one, but Althor deserved that win. He played very well. GG.